So, hello and welcome to the podcast Conversations with Zapheria. I invite you to take your seat on the virtual couch with me. And in this episode, I'm going to talk about how our greatest pains can often turn into our greatest gifts. So, those of you who are seeing this online, who are seeing this perhaps on the YouTube channel, I'm first going to tell you that when I take a sip of my drink here in this wine glass, that it's actually water, so that nobody thinks, oh my God, she's doing a podcast session and getting drunk. I'm not. It's 8 o'clock in the morning and I drink all of my drinks out of a wine glass. Water, smoothies, you name it, everything's drunk out of a wine glass, just the way that it is. And those of you who are listening to the podcast and cannot see me, I feel like letting you know that I'm in my brand new loungewear, my pajamas from Victoria's Secret, my satiny animal print pajamas, which I'm quite excited about. I have my hair and my makeup done and I'm sitting here in pajamas. So my life is a paradox of very interesting things that maybe don't go together, such as sitting in pajamas with hair and makeup done whilst recording and filming a podcast, or drinking bubbly water out of a wine glass. Because I really truly believe that we create our own rules, that we set up our life however we want it to be. And so I do often break the rules, the normal societal rules of what would be expected of us. And if it feels good for me and it's not hurting anybody else, then I'm obviously going to choose to do it. So I'm very much doing that here in this episode with you. So my intention with this episode is to share, to briefly touch on some of my own life experiences, the pain points, the pain moments. In this episode, I don't plan on going too deeply into them, but just to touch on what some of those have been and how they have turned out to eventually be my greatest gift. And sometimes how that can be perceived as not okay. That I've managed to find my way through the trauma that I was in from different experiences in my life, and I've found the gold, the gems in those experiences, and that I now perceive those to be such a beautiful gift that really happened for me and not to me. It can be a very unpopular viewpoint. In fact, I very clearly remember at one point many years ago sharing a part of this viewpoint of very deeply sharing an experience that I was in at the time. And in fact, I lost a number of close friends over it. People unfriended me on the socials because they didn't like what I said, or other people who decided that they couldn't be my friend because of what I said. So it's probably edgy that then I'm just going to come in here and say it in a podcast, but I still really truly believe it, is that some of the things that happened to me in my life were in fact a gift from the person who may be perceived as my abuser. And how I've come to a place in my life where I am able to be grateful for the people who perhaps did things to me that at the time caused the greatest pains in my life, and that in my life took a very long time to move through, took a very long time to heal from, and really shaped my personality, shaped who I am, shaped my drivers in the world, shaped the way I show up in the world, was really a massive part of this journey. And so for many, we get caught into being the victim of the experiences that have happened to us in life, the experiences that we didn't consciously choose. We didn't wake up and ask to be in an abusive situation. We didn't wake up and ask to be the victim of something horrendous. But it happens to many of us in our lifetime. You know, if we sit down and we talk to people, and we really talk to people, we ask them questions, we inquire into their life, we hold genuine interest around what has their life experience been, the majority of us have had some things happen that are really horrible, actually. And we spend our lives needing to cover those up, or needing to put the Band-Aid over those, or needing to create our life to be something more. We think that things happen to us because we were a bad person, or because we deserved it, or whatever the story is that we come up with and that we create. And I really believe, and have experienced myself, that we have the choice. We have the choice on how long it is that we're going to be in that space of, and I don't use this word lightly, because I'm aware for so many of us, it's a place that needs to be in for a long time, but victim is to be in that victimhood, to be in that victim state. Now, when I use the word victim, I just want to be clear with something. There is being a victim to something, and then there is choosing to live within the energy of perpetuating that victimness and perpetuating that victimhood, and being caught in the trauma that it's created within our own being. And so every person and their own life experience takes a different amount of time to be able to move through that. So in no way am I lessening anybody's experience, or lessening how long it takes somebody to be able to process and to be able to move through the trauma that has been created in their own body or in their own being from any experience that they may have had in this life, from any traumatic experience, any space where they have been the victim. So it's a fine line. It's a fine line between choosing to heal the trauma that we have in our body, in our being, the emotional responses and reactions, really not even responses, but the emotional reactions that we have to life because of the trauma that we have experienced. And choosing to play in the victim because it feeds us something. There's a very fine line between these two pieces. And so I believe that we have choice in how long we wish to create that victim story for ourselves, or to be in the energy of victim. Perhaps we don't have as much choice unless we have come across the right tools on how long that trauma exists within our body, until we find the people that are able to support us in being able to move through whatever the trauma is that we're holding. So I really wish to speak into those pieces before I start with my own story and my own experience, as in no way am I trying to say that anybody else should move through anything faster than what the tools that they have allow them to, or what their life experience is allowing them to. But there is the possibility, which is what I wish to seed here, is it is possible to heal. It is possible to not only heal from the trauma, to move out of the place of being victim, but it's also possible to move into the space where you are able to hold gratitude and love and understanding for the experiences that you've had in your life. And to be able to choose and to see that those experiences happened for you, not to you. Now, it's an advanced way of thinking, but I wish to let you know that it is possible. And so that is the intention that I'm sharing this story, or my story, with you, is simply for you to see that it is possible. Excuse me. And to trust what is your own life's experience in getting to that point. Perhaps it's a lifetime journey. Perhaps it's a week's journey. It's different for all of us on what we've experienced. So for me, as feeling into how deeply I want to share in this, for me, at different times in my life, I have experienced sexual trauma. I've also experienced being in a very abusive marriage. The sexual trauma is probably more the one that I wish to speak into in this particular episode, and how it shaped my life. How from those experiences, I started to believe that my body was not mine. Or I didn't start to believe, I always believed that my body was not mine. I believed that if a man was wanting to have my attention, that I had to give my attention to him. I believed that my pleasure was for somebody else and not for myself. I believed that I was not worthy of love. I thought that it was such an incredible gift if somebody showed me love, especially if a male showed me love. I thought, wow, oh my goodness. And I would be in relationships just because that person was feeling something. And sometimes I did feel it as well, and sometimes I didn't. Sometimes I really just thought, well, at least this person is giving me attention. At least this person is giving me love, which is really a lot of how I ended up marrying the person that I married many, 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 many years ago, and having the experience in that relationship that I did that wasn't healthy for either of us, really. And so what starts to happen when we create those stories around our own worthiness, and we're carrying these aspects of trauma within our own body to the point of it not being conscious, to the point of it running everything in the unconscious mind, is obviously we recreate those experiences, or we create experiences in our life to prove to us that we are not worthy, that we are not lovable, that our body is there for somebody else. And so I did that. I created many, many experiences throughout my life to prove all of those things to myself. But what started to happen was, so some of you may already know I'm a lead teacher for the Spiral and a Spiral practitioner. But what started to happen when I went through that modality is things started to shift and things started to change. And I had one particular day where I was taking myself through what's called a quantum clear. I was taking myself through a quantum clear on my wounded inner child. I would put a red flag on that for anyone who wants to go and get a quantum clear, is be very aware. I listened to somebody else who said, you should do one on your wounded inner child. I was like, that's a great idea. It's not really a great idea unless you are very prepared for what might come up. Because as I did that, I started having very, 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 very strong flashbacks, as if it was happening to me again in that moment. Things that I didn't know, things that I had unconsciously pushed into somewhere else, into my unconscious, so that I didn't have to remember it. And I started to remember these things. And at the time, that was really traumatic. But now I am deeply, deeply, deeply grateful for having those memories. But what I would have done had I have known that doing that that particular clear could bring anything up, is I would have had somebody else hold me through that process. I would not have done it on my own. So that was the lesson that I learned. And so, yeah, I started to see and remember and feel things that had happened to me throughout my life, throughout my childhood. And I was mortified. I was mortified that somebody could do those things to me. I was mortified that those things could happen without anybody ever knowing. But I obviously pushed them down and didn't tell anybody, because it is, I felt like it was my fault. And so I went into a really big spin around that time of having to feel that my rage, I was going to say my ranger, my rage, my anger, my distress, my upset. You can even hear it in my voice trying to come through now. I have like my difficulty to share it with this frog in my throat. So, oof. Can really very much feel the distress of that coming up in my body again as I share it with you. Hence my pausing for a moment. But I feel like it's important to share. So I went through a very difficult period of time now, knowing that in my consciousness there was something that I needed to heal. There was some work that needed to be done. And I chose to work on it. I chose not to push it down this time. I chose to really honor the fact that it was there. And I went to what's called ISTA. For those of you who know it, I went to ISTA. I also went to Haydn, and I moved through a lot of what I had been holding, and I went deep. When I say I went deep, I went to the places where I lay on the floor, just wishing that the ground would open up and swallow me in whole. I went to the places where I don't feel like most people should, could, would go, but I made the conscious choice that that's what I wanted to do. And the reason that I made that conscious choice was I was already able to see how what had happened earlier in my life had started to mold and shape who I was, the work that I was bringing into the world, the clients that I was attracting into my world. No surprise, I was attracting a lot of female clients, mostly all female clients, many who had had some form of sexual abuse in their life, many who were wishing to move beyond that and wishing to be held by somebody who understood it. Also created womb spiral, which really one of the biggest results of womb spiral is women connecting back into their own bodies, is women being able to release and let go of their past trauma, of the places where they have trauma in their body, in their sexual energy, in their sensuality, in being able to simply be in their body. One of the things when we experience sexual abuse is that we often leave our body because it's not a safe place to be. And so it's no surprise that my drive was to create modalities, to create ways for women to be able to move beyond the past experiences that had happened to them and to be able to land fully in their body and be able to claim their sensuality, their sexuality, their power, their life force, and everything that they are. And so I knew this. I knew, I already was aware of where was I going? What was I here for? I had already had the felt sense and the glimpses of why I was here. And if that's why I was here, then I needed to be willing to really go into the depths of what I had experienced. And so I did. So I chose to go into the depths of all of it and to really be in the pain. And what started to emerge from that, the deeper that I went and the more that I journeyed, is that I started to completely switch my mindset on everything. I started to really claim that my body is my body. My no very much means my no. Even if it was a yes 3 minutes ago and now it's a no, my no means no. My body is mine. My sexuality, my sensuality, and my pleasure are mine. They are my responsibility, and I do not allow anybody else to take that for granted. I feel safe in my body, and I'm deeply embodied in my body. In fact, I know that I am one of the most embodied people that a lot of people meet. It's a comment that I get very often because I finally feel safe in here. I finally feel like it's my place to live in. So I went deep in this journey. And one of the things that I realized, well, two things. I realized absolutely how much those experiences that had caused a lot of pain, that when I started to remember them, I was furious that they had ruined my life. And there are many ways that I could sit here and list off all of the ways that it ruined different aspects of my life and that it ruined me and that it ruined my life experiences. I could choose very much to focus, to put my attention on all the things that went wrong because of that. There are a long list. But when I start to see the gifts of that and what that has given me and what that has given my life, and how I would not be where I am today if it was not for all of those experiences, I can see the gift of those experiences in every single aspect of my life. I can see the gift in how I now choose to relate and the partner that I now choose to be with, and how I've evolved through different relationships to come to a place to be with this type of partner. I can see how it drove me to create womb spiral, a really powerful modality that so many women are going through. And there are 24 women who are in an apprenticeship container with me, who are either already womb spiral practitioners or are on their way to being womb spiral practitioners. This is a modality that's growing in the world, that was driven because of those experiences that I had, that now gets to change lives for other people. I can also see that I am a medium. I'm a medium for the Blue Diamond Souls, for this high vibrational collective. I can see that that would not have opened up in me had I not have had those experiences that I have had, because the places that I chose that were safer for me for much of my life, on and off, but for much of my life, were to be with the different realms and to have conversations with the different realms, because it felt safer for me than what it did feel to be in my body and to be around other humans, around other people. And so that aspect of me being a medium comes very naturally for me now because of that experience, or those experiences. There were many experiences. What's also started to happen is that I've come to a place where actually I'm able to see, so feel myself hesitating because this is what I've shared before and people haven't understood it. But I can flip the mirror and I can start to really see on a soul level, not on a human level. On a soul level, was I actually the victim to those experiences? Or was that other soul playing a part that I needed them to play for me to have the life experiences that I was choosing to have in this life? And when I started to be able to view things from that viewpoint, everything changed. Because I realized I was not the victim to that person at all. That person's soul showed up at the moment in my life that I needed them to show up, and they played the part that I needed them to play. Now, that doesn't make it okay. That does not make what they did on a human level okay, but I can tell you on a soul level, it changed everything for me. To be able to see this place and to start to actually have compassion for the people who had done horrendous things to me, because that's their life experience. Their life experience is to walk this path doing what they did and to have to live with that for the rest of their lives, and the impact that that has on their lives for showing up in this human form in the way that they have been showing up, or the way that they had shown up at that moment in time. I don't know them still now to know if that is how they still showed up or any other time, or if it was just me, I don't know. But it allowed me to really start to shift everything and to release the parts of me that were holding that person responsible, and to start to do my own healing. It was not for the other people. Let me tell you that much. Me coming to this place of forgiveness, and me coming to this place of being able to see what happened on a soul level beyond what happened on a human level, that was not for their benefit. And those people will never know. I've never seen them again. Those people will never ever know that I forgave them. Those people will never ever know that I chose to tune into a soul level and to really, really switch my experience of what had happened. But it changed everything for me. And really, in the big scheme of things, I would rather live my life with freedom, with love, through healing, and to be able to move forward seeing my pain as a gift than I would to live my life caught in that pain. Because the thing is that if I live my life caught in that pain, it also doesn't impact the other person at all. It only impacts me and the people who are close to me. Usually. Obviously, it depends on what the situation was, but talking about my personal experience, is that those people would never have known that it, in inverted commas, ruined my life at times. And they don't know now that it's my fuel for life. It's my fuel for moving through this life and creating everything that I create. It's the fire for my soul. And my soul is on fire. My soul is birthing so many things into the world. It's really hard actually for my human to keep up with everything that's coming through. And the reason that it's coming through at such intensity is those experiences that were my pains have been transmuted into being my greatest gifts. They've been released out of my body, and I'm no longer using my energy. My constant, consistent energy isn't getting wasted on having those experiences control every aspect of my life. And so therefore I have more energy, more capabilities in the world, and everything started to change. Really, when I moved through that, everything changed. That's when there's books and there's a online TV series and there's so many different programs birthing through me, and I'm able to hold apprenticeship programs and everything else that wants to come through me that I wouldn't have been able to create had I have still chosen to be in that place and to be in the pain. Now, I really want to also honor that it takes hard work sometimes, that it takes being able to find the right people to hold you on the path. It takes being really brave to be able to move through and to work through our past emotional stories, our past emotional conditioning, our past emotional pain, and our past trauma. And we usually can't do it on our own. We usually need somebody who is skilled, understands, to be able to hold that for us, because when we're in it, it's like this minefield of mush. It's kind of the energetic view that I'm getting when I try and drop into it, is this like very mushy, weird, confused, gray cloud minefield of stuff. And it's hard to find your way through it without having the support either of somebody else or the support of finding a modality that you can take yourself through. I guess one example of that would be self-clearing. For me, that's one of Dane Thomas's books, Clear Your Shit. Like, that's one of the ways. There's, EFT, tapping. Like, there are different techniques that we can learn to take ourselves through, or when it's really deep, trying to find the right person to be able to hold you through it is so important. And we have to be ready. You have to be ready to let it go. You have to be ready to choose to live life on the other side of it. You have to be ready to start to see life in a different way and not be controlled by the experiences that have happened to us in our lives. Because it is so darn easy to get caught up in being controlled by it, having it manipulate and control every aspect of your life, rather than choosing the freedom. It's like living in this space of fear of what has been and of fear of what might happen, rather than choosing to live in a space of love. rather than choosing to come into love to heal the past and to choose love to step into the future with. So you notice I've been pausing a lot, breathing a lot. I understand for some people listening to this podcast might be obvious. Might be like, Zapheria, you are just speaking the obvious. I already know that. For some people listening to this podcast, it might just not really mean a whole lot because it hasn't been your life experience. And for some people listening to this podcast might be very much pushing the edge of what they're able to hear, or might be bringing up a lot for them. And so I noticed myself coming into these spaces of pause and allowing things to land, allowing you to receive what you're ready and able to receive. And I want to say to you, if you are in that place of being caught in your pain to some extent, looping back into the past, I kind of see it like we're looking backwards all the time, and it's very hard to look back forwards because we're looking backwards all the time at what has been, living in the past. Whether you're conscious that you're living in the past or not, if you're allowing the past to control your future, you are living in the past. I want to say to you, if that is your experience and you're not yet at the place where you're able or have the skills or the resources to fully heal from that and to be able to see things from a different viewpoint, I want to say to you that it is possible. I also want to honor wherever you're at in that path, wherever you're at in that journey of healing. I want to tell you that wherever you are is not wrong. Wherever you are is incredibly important in the healing process. And I also would love to offer you to see if you can allow yourself to imagine what will it be like when you completely heal from that experience. And maybe if you're able to stretch your mind to that, what would it be like when you're able to be grateful for those experiences? And I hesitate to say, and the people who created them, because that's not as easy. But what would it be like when you're able to come to that place? And what will it take? What do you need in order to be able to come to that place? So if that's you, if you are a person who knows that pain, past pain, is in some way controlling your life, maybe it's only mildly controlling, maybe it's intensely controlling. If you are in that position, I would love to offer a piece to you to do in a space when you feel safe. So maybe you would have like a loved one or a partner or someone just be with you, or maybe you have like your favorite teddy, or maybe you lay in your bed and cuddle your pillow. I love to cuddle my pillow personally. And just tune into your inner child. And don't worry about your head getting into but how do I do that? Literally, if you just make the conscious choice that you're going to tune into your inner child will come forward, and just ask them, what do they need? Just tune in and ask, what do you need? What do you need? That's it. It's just simple. And just allow yourself step by step by step. And some days it may feel like you took 2 steps forward and 3 steps backwards. And that's okay. Because eventually you are going to come to the day where you have healed from that experience, where maybe you are able to turn it into a gift. You know, you can see, wow, like some of the most inspiring people in this world, some of the most inspiring books that you can possibly read come from people who have experienced some of the worst atrocities, some of the most horrendous experiences that we can experience in this human body. But when they have been able to find the gift, when they have been able to flick the switch on that, Everything has changed. And so see if you can allow yourself to find, if you are in that place, can you allow yourself to find a role model? Is there a book? Is there a movie? Is there a person that you are aware of that has experienced something similar to yours, or something as intense or as painful as yours, who has now turned that into something else? Can you allow yourself to start to look for that person? And when you can you use them as your inspiration? And I want to be careful here of not meaning for you to put them on a pedestal. One of the intentions of this podcast is to take down the darn pedestals everywhere. One of the reasons why I'm sitting here in my pajamas with you is like, let's take down all of the pedestaling everywhere. So I don't mean that, but can you use them as your inspiration, your fuel in your own healing journey? Because the fact of the matter is that as humans, this life experience is brutal. At different times in our life, it is brutal. And in those brutal moments, we can choose to allow it to shape our lives. And we can choose to shape our lives for it to then just be like, oh my gosh, my life is ruined forever. Or we can choose to shape it to find eventually the tipping point that drives us forward, that moves the needle forward. The actual driver that used to be the reason to not get out of bed becomes the reason to get out of bed. Like, that's in my own experience. It was like, it went from it being the reason that I don't want to get out of bed. I want to numb myself. In fact, I don't even want to be alive, to it is now my reason for being alive. It is my reason for getting out of bed. It is my driver because it turned into the gift. So can you start to see that gift? Can you start to allow yourself to see that it's possible? Because life is going to keep serving us up, unfortunately, freaking brutal experiences that we need to learn from. And for each and every one of us, it's going to bring up something different, and it's going to bring up a different level of trauma that we hold, and it's going to have a different meaning. And so can we start to have compassion for yourself, for what you've experienced, but can we also start to have compassion for others and what they're experiencing? So wherever you are in this crazy world that we live in, wherever you are on your own spectrum of pain and healing and realizing that it's a gift, wherever you are on that spectrum, sending you so much love for your humanness, so much love for your human journey, and reminding you that there are people actually who will be willing to support and hold you in the spaces that you're in. When you allow yourself to find those people, there are people who are able to hold that for you. Even when it feels like you are so incredibly alone, we really are not alone. And right now, I'll feel like I'll finish on this piece, is one of the things that I am noticing very much in the collective, very much, like I've never seen it this intensely before, is the isolation. Now, yes, we've been, 18 months or something where we've had these different lockdown experiences, and people are being placed into quite literal physical isolation throughout the world at different times. But what that's creating on a collective is us coming into our own space of isolation, even if we're around people, is feeling isolated. Even if we're not in lockdown, is feeling isolated and creating this sense of isolation and pulling away from everybody. And it's happening globally. The people that I am speaking to and the clients that I'm hearing from and what I'm feeling is on a global level. So if you are experiencing that, if you are experiencing this isolation feeling, I wonder, can you allow yourself to feel the isolation with others? Ooh, now that's confusing. What are you talking about, Zapheria? That is a total paradox. That doesn't happen, like doing your hair and makeup and being in your pajamas or drinking water out of a wine glass. How can I be in isolation around others? Is allow whatever that isolation feeling is for you, but don't allow it to actually pull you into literal physical isolation. Can you turn towards people? Can you turn towards your friends? Can you turn towards online communities? Can you turn towards your family? Like, who is it? Is there somebody that you can reach out and turn towards, even though you're in your isolation, even if it's you and them feeling like they're in isolation as well? But we're remembering that we are not alone in this, because here's the thing, is that we think that we are alone. As humans, it's part of our human condition, is that we think that we are alone. You're not alone. There are, what, I don't even know, how many billions of people are there on this planet? None of us are actually alone. Sometimes we might want to be. None of us are actually ever alone. We are isolated, yes, but we are not alone, because this world is absolutely covered in people who are having the same experience as you, people who have the same depth of pain as you, people who have the same level of trauma as you do. The world is covered in them. So we are not actually alone, but we are feeling isolated in what is our own experience. So I wonder, are you able to allow yourself to still feel that isolation if it needs to be there? Maybe it doesn't. Maybe you can let it go. We can just choose, I actually don't want to feel isolated anymore, and we can let it go. But if that's not possible for you, can you still allow yourself to turn outwards to the world? Because when we realize that we are not alone, there are all these other people, and there are all these other people having very similar experiences to us. The isolation doesn't feel quite so bad. I have more to share about that isolation, but I feel like I'm going to keep it for a completely separate topic on why I see this isolation piece is happening. So from my heart to yours, wherever you are in this world, just sending you so much love. If you've listened to all of this podcast, then all I can do is assume that it has reached you on some level. It has hit some chord for you. And so from my heart to yours, sending you so much love for wherever you are on your own healing journey, wherever you are on your path. And I'll see you on the next episode.